When she informed she wanted to leave, she attempted to move past him to get her things to leave, at which time she reported that he grabbed her. She attempted to run up the staircase of the house. He tackled her, held her down against her will, and dragged her up through her hands up the staircase to a second floor landing.
Returning now to Wisconsin for a bond hearing for defendant Austin Chronister. This guy is a 38-year-old real estate agent accused of human trafficking and sex assault after allegedly holding 2 women captive in his home as sex slaves. The victims are claiming that the crimes date back as far as 2020, and during the hearing we hear from one of the accusers. So let's go to the courtroom now and listen.
State of Wisconsin versus Austin Chronister, case number 25 CF1231. Appearances, please.
Ken Olsztynski for the state.
And good morning, Your Honor. Attorney Nicole Muller appearing for and with the defendant, Mr. Austin Chronister.
Okay.
Judge, we're in court today for a bail bond hearing. Previously, I had provided notice orally that we would be seeking a modification of the conditions of bond in this case, specifically the no contact order with the individual with initials CSP, and also amending.
With who?
Sorry, initials CSP. If you'd like the full name, I can provide that. Pierre, P-I-E-R-R-E. The other condition we are looking for modification on as well today, Judge, is the 24-hour curfew that is currently in place through Justice Point monitoring. We would be asking for modification to a limited curfew. The time that I have proposed is from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. that Mr. Chronister would have to reside in his residence. That's a brief overview. There was a written submission. I don't know if the court wants me to go into it more at this point, or if you want to first hear from the state.
What's the state's position?
The state would oppose a modification to both. As far as the
current bail is what, $75,000?
Yes. Yeah, I don't believe there's any challenge to the cash bond, but it should be $75,000. The state does oppose both motions and does have both victims in the gallery, one of whom does wish to address the court. I'll have that after my record, make my record.
Okay.
As far as the condition of the GPS or the curfew, the state does believe that the curfew is appropriate in order to protect the victims in this case. There are multiple victims. These are violent offenses that are against both individuals as well. I do believe that the curfew is appropriate given the significant charges against the defendant, given that it's an appropriate condition to assure this, the safety of the community in this particular case, and to assure the safety of the victims. As far as the contact with Kristen St. Pierre, I would object to any modification of the no contact with that as well. She is a witness to this case. She's a potential victim depending upon how circumstances could be viewed. But we also do see at the beginning of this case, where it is a domestic violence case, there is violence against women within the home, that Ms. St. Pierre apparently attempted to represent the defendant and also posted his bond. I think that there's potential issues there that would show what lengths she would be willing to go for the defendant, as that would be a potential ethical violation under SCR:1.8 sub E. I think that is of high concern. I think given the violence against women that are within the home already, it would be a concern to have any contact with any witness in this case. And I do have JKP who wishes to address the court as well.
Well, before we go into that, I was not going into further of my argument, Judge, just to get the position of the state, but since the state's now argued, I'd like to make my record prior to a victim being heard.
All right, well, go ahead. It's your motion. Make your record.
Thank you. So first, I just want to say I'm not asking for any conditions relating to the complaining witnesses in this case to be modified. I'm not asking the no contact order with, sorry, Madam Court Reporter. I'm not asking for the no contact order with the complaining witnesses in this case to be modified. So to say that it should be the request should be denied for those individuals, that they're not going to be impacted here. This whole concept of we need to have an absolute 24-hour curfew for those two individuals is absolutely absurd. There's already no contact orders in place with them. There's an injunction in case with one of them. So whether he's at home or not at home, I don't think makes any difference because he's still precluded from being in contact with those two individuals. Also, this, the state, rightfully so, this is what we expect the state to do, saying that these are violent offenses, that he's dangerous against women. Those are the allegations. My client has never been convicted of a criminal offense before. And if we're going to be talking about what the state believes they have, I can tell this court that one of the complaining victims completely perjured herself during the injunction hearing, that the testimony she gave during that time was different than what the state has in discovery. So I don't think it's appropriate to say this is what we have as far as evidence at this point. When we're looking at what
The court can consider the strength of this state's case when considering bail.
Sure.
Okay.
And so right now, all they have are these two women, their statements and statements alone, and that's now been disrupted by the testimony given by one of the complaining witnesses in that injunction hearing, which the state, once I have that transcript, will be getting that. Second, it's repulsive that the state would try to speak for her. She is an attorney. She knows very well the ramifications of if she allows Mr. Chronister to intimidate her, which there's no evidence that he's done that. She knows that if she got on the stand and said something that's not true, she's risking her livelihood as an attorney. She has absolutely no desire to have a no contact order with Mr. Chronister, and the state's just saying, oh, we don't want her to have one, but that's what the state wants, and there has not been any, where's the evidence that he's intimidated her? It doesn't exist, and she's here today if the court needs to hear directly from her. This isn't just, oh, they want to hang out some more. They've been in a relationship for over 10 years, Your Honor. They lived together for over 10 years. It's her home, her livelihood, and she's not a victim. She will never be a victim.
But she may be a witness in the case, right?
Yes.
Sure, so will hundreds of other people. Does that mean we get a no contact order? Does that mean the state gets a no contact order?
Potentially.
But even if
And we
she's
know
a
that.
witness, and I know, Judge, but even if she's a witness, the statute is still to prevent intimidation. And that hasn't been established that St. Pierre, she's an attorney. She can stand her ground. She's a criminal defense attorney. We have some thick skin. And we know that if we got on that stand and said something that's not true, that's going to be very bad for us. But again, there's no evidence that he's intimidated her. So I just don't think it's appropriate to say, oh, because she could potentially be a witness, there has to be a no contact order, because that's not what the statute says. It says to prevent witness intimidation. All in all, too, it's, you know, right now, back to the curfew, I don't see why Mr. Chronister can't try to go to work.
Well, what kind of work does he do besides what's alleged in the criminal complaint?
So his work was with Sotheby's real estate company, but because of him being in custody and now being at home 24/7, he's not able to work. So I just don't think that it's needed to protect the public. I think that a limited curfew is more appropriate. I should note, as I noted in my motion, that 24-hour curfew should be put away for the most serious of cases, and I argued in my motion that this is not that. I recognize that the charges on their own are serious charges, but they're serious charges every day with people who post significant bond that are out without monitoring. He has monitoring. He will be, if he steps anyway, he's already signed all the zones that he can't go. If he's in a 500 radius of somewhere he's not going to be, Justice Point's going to be alerted right away, and then it's likely that law enforcement will be alerted right away. So it really does not, we do not need to have a 24-hour curfew to address the concerns that the state has. I think it's an overreach. And so we would be asking for the court to amend it to a limited, and then also to a St. Pierre. And I should note too, Judge, that Kristen St. Pierre has had to uproot everything, find housing. It's been extremely disruptive, and she wants to return home. She has no issues with the defendant. And again, if the court needs to hear from her directly, she is here present. Thank you.
Still to come, for the first time, we're hearing from one of the accusers against this man who was a real estate agent in Milwaukee. He says that there were contracts, apparently, that these women willingly came to the house. So this could get interesting. We'll hear from that accuser next.
Sure.
Did you have any siblings?
2, yes. My sister Kristen. And, brother John. They all called him Johnny, especially if you're a family.
And what did Johnny do for work?
Boston Police.
How long was he a member of the Boston?
16 years.
Act number 2 of the trial centered around the death of Boston police officer John O'Keefe begins tomorrow morning with opening statements. Defendant Karen Reed, who's the accused, is going to be facing a jury for the second time after her first homicide case ended in a mistrial last year. She's charged with second-degree murder in connection with the death of John O'Keefe. He died in January of 2022. Now, Reed has pleaded not guilty. The trial kicks off tomorrow morning, and we will carry it live here for you on Court TV. Now, back to Wisconsin for Austin Chronister's bail hearing. The realtor faces human trafficking and sex assault charges after allegedly holding women captive as sex slaves. And for the first time, we're hearing from one of those accusers. She's testifying against him at the bail hearing.
Where do you want her to sit?
Right here. Right there.
You can just sit right there.
You want to just state your name for the record and spell it, please?
Yes, Your Honor. My name is Kristen St. Pierre.
Go ahead, counsel.
Thank you. Ms. St. Pierre, if you could just tell the court how long you've been in a relationship with Mr. Chronister.
Between 10 and 15 years.
And how long have you been residing together?
Since 2015.
Okay, did you request a no contact order in this matter?
I did not.
Do you wish to have contact with Mr. Chronister?
I do.
Do you fear Mr. Chronister?
I do not.
Has he ever tried to intimidate you?
No.
Has he ever tried to threaten you, to persuade you to act in a way you did not want to act?
No.
Are you currently a licensed attorney in the state of Wisconsin.
I am.
Do you understand that if you provided testimony that was not true, that there would be repercussions?
I do.
What repercussions are you aware of? What would happen?
At the very least, I would lose my bar license and my livelihood.
And why would you lose your livelihood?
Because I am a criminal defense attorney predominantly.
And in this matter, do you have any fear that if you were to have contact with Mr. Chronister, that you would be at risk of injury?
I do not.
I have nothing further.
Go ahead, State.
Yes. Did you post the bond for Mr. Chronister at the beginning of this case?
I don't object to relevance. This is not a cross-examination of her. This is, does she want to have contact with Mr. Chronister?
Counsel was representing that she is an ethical
You
attorney.
can ask the question. Go ahead.
Your Honor, prior to any charges being filed, I posted I believe it was $30,000 that was required. I believe it was part of an arrest warrant, but that was before I was aware of what the allegations were.
Did you represent yourself as his attorney viewing him inside of the jail at that time?
Prior to being made aware of what the charges were and being made aware of the conflict, yes, I did.
One moment. Are you aware that SCR rules prohibit a lawyer from providing financial assistance to a client in connection with a pending or contemplated litigation?
Judge, I'm going to object. This is an attempt to...
This is your motion, counsel.
Okay, but still, he's not going towards the motion. The motion is for her to have contact with Mr. Chronister. He's using this as a fishing expedition to try to get information about why she did something before there were charges in this case, before she even knew about it. So it's not relevant. This all happened prior to charges being filed against my client. Once charges were filed with my client, she never had anything to do with it. She didn't know what was going on. All she knew was that her partner of 15 years was in custody, and she didn't know why. And no one told her why.
And she can state that on the record. Thank
Okay.
you. Go ahead, counsel.
Your Honor, my apologies if I wasn't clear, but as I previously stated, my apologies, Madam Clerk. Your Honor, as I had previously stated, at the time that I had represented myself as Mr. Chronister's attorney and at the time that I had posted the cash that was required at the time, there were not charges filed. I did not know what the allegations were, and I was unaware of any kind of conflict of interest. As soon as I became aware of the potential charges, and once the charges were filed, at no time did I represent myself as Mr. Chronister's attorney, and candidly at that time, I am not the one who posted the remaining portion of bail.
Nothing further.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I step down?
Yes.
Thank you.
Does JKP still wish to address the court?
Do you want to state your name for the record, please?
Okay, so have a little correction. You may have figured this out as you were watching this that we did. So a correction here from us at Court TV. That was not one of the accusers. You're going to hear from her coming up in our next clip we've got. That is what seems to be the defendant's girlfriend, also a lawyer. She's named in the complaint as someone who may have allegedly assisted him during his reign of abuse. These alleged victims call it a reign of abuse and terror in that home. And so this woman, to be very clear, this defense attorney who's saying she's not afraid of him, she wants to have contact with him, she likes him, she's his girlfriend. What, if any, involvement she may have in this, we don't know. She's not charged. I want to be very clear on that. But her name is listed in the criminal complaint against him. So that's who the defense brought forth to try to show the court that he's not a scary guy, as the state is trying to paint him to be. When we come back, we're going to hear from one of the two accusers who say that they were horribly victimized in that house with him. Be right back.
Wednesday cult mom is now lawyer Lori.
She's representing herself.
On charges of conspiring to murder her fourth husband.
She said, I can murder you now.
The Cult Mom Conspiracy Trial. Live coverage today, only on Court TV.
You feel that?
The NWSL is on ION.
It's game time. Showing off a little skill now.
The new Saturday Night Out is on ION all season long. Find ION wherever you watch.
ION. It's on.
Mr. Chronister held BDSM sex parties at his residence, and she said participation was mandatory unless you were at work. And you weren't allowed to turn down any kind of sexual intercourse.
We're watching the bail hearing for an interesting defendant. This guy is a real estate agent named Austin Chronister. Apparently involved, maybe it seems like a girlfriend of a criminal defense attorney. He's being accused by 2 other women of human trafficking, sex assault, and false imprisonment, claiming that he held them in his home as sex slaves. We just heard his girlfriend, lady friend, whatever you want to call her, I don't know, the lawyer, saying she's not afraid of him, thinks she should get a bond, she wants to have contact with him. Now the state is going to call their witnesses, so they're about to call one of the accusers who feels quite differently. Take a listen.
How do you spell your last name?
P-A-T-E. Your Honor, I have known Mr. Chronister and Miss St. Pierre for some time when all of this went down. And during that time, there was a lot of information for everybody that lived in that house at various times that was withheld from us, that was only allowed to know between Mr. Chronister and Miss St. Pierre. And when there were people before me who tried to bring these matters to the court, I watched with my own 2 eyes that they created a story that was false. And both of them told that story, which turned it into somebody reporting to the court, going from a he said, she said to a 2 versus 1, which is just, that's hard to go against. Sorry. And now we finally have been able to bring this here. And it breaks my heart. I know that this is part of the judicial process, but it breaks my heart that there's a possibility that they could talk again and have the option to potentially have this be lost again because of these 2. I would ask that they not be allowed contact. And additionally, the only reason that I'm really able to sleep at night is knowing that he has to stay in one place and he cannot leave.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So, what are the conditions of the bail?
As it exists right now?
Yeah.
The current conditions are level 5 justice point supervision with monitoring. The monitoring right now is a 24-hour curfew. The only exception is legal appointments, so court and meetings with myself.
Or health-related issues?
Correct.
Okay.
Absolute sobriety, no possession of or use of controlled substances without a valid prescription, no possession of dangerous weapons or firearms, and then no contact with AEK, JKP, who just spoke, CC, and then Kristen St. Pierre.
Anything else? Well, then, based upon what's been represented, the testimony that was taken, because of the violent nature of the offense and for the protection of potential witness intimidation, the court's not going to modify the bail. So the bail will remain as.
I like this judge. Let me bring in our legal analyst guest, see what he thinks. Attorney Tommy Pope has been watching along with us. Tommy, what do you think about the judge's reaction?
I think he dealt with it, but it's an interesting kind of sub-level. I think this attorney could arguably, I'm not quite sure, we don't see everything about the investigation. I'm not quite sure why she hadn't been charged. It sounds like she is at a minimum a co-conspirator, if not a direct answer. Obviously talking about the Kristen St. Pierre, not the counsel attorney. But it was very convoluted, it reminded me, I know you cleared some of it up, but it reminded me of Who's on First, trying to keep up. But, the nature of these cases, probably the closest I've dealt with to something like this would be a rape case against a potential escort or prostitute. And those are difficult because the jury thinks you're going to have these contracts. But, even in those circumstances, no still means no. And, of course, this reaches so much further, keeping their passports or licenses locked up, keeping their mail from them, and people, sometimes jurors don't understand how this can happen if they get to leave the house every day. But there's a psychological component, and we see it all the time, in domestic cases where the victim doesn't feel like they can leave. You compile it with whatever head games were going on with this, and it's a very interesting case, and one that I think will be difficult to prosecute, but I think it can be done and done effectively. But again, brings me back to this attorney. I mean, from even just an ethical standpoint, when we passed the bar, Julie, the things they wanted to know if you ever had a speeding ticket in high school. So right. I can't imagine this isn't ultimately going to affect this attorney's license at a minimum.
Right, Tommy. I'm glad you're saying that. And to be very clear, she has not been charged. As Tommy said, we're kind of scratching our heads, wondering what, if any, involvement does she have here. She is named in the complaint and accused by these alleged victims of assisting Mr. Chronister during his, what they call a reign of terror. But you're right, just to avoid the appearance of impropriety, I can't believe she stood up for the guy. I'm stunned, Think you've seen it all today? Just come to criminal court tomorrow, Tommy Pope. That's what my old Uncle Art used to say. Sheriff's deputy, God rest his soul.